like ranging from the aggregate questions of food security and so on, the global situation, also the definitional aspect, the philosophy behind talking about poverty and so on, and the Human Development Index, multi-dimensional and so on, the political question of democracy, participation and so on, voting, and also the question of like capability and so on, like without employment and capability creation and so on, we are going to solve the problem. Anyway, but I'm really going to confine myself only to 2-3 questions which are being debated hotly in the nation today. Mostly actually which were covered by Professor Dubey and so on. So talking about basically the issues like this debate about the measurement of poverty and so on, this question, and also the question of this bill, food security bill. So a couple of points about that. So 2-3 points basically I will be focusing on. Now, I mean, we all know that actually, like for several years, 2-3 years now, this question of being debated hotly in media, on TV every day and so on. What does this 30 rupees mean? How can people survive and so on? And then you got response from the ruling party side. Somebody, Raj Babbar comes to 12 rupees, Farooq Abdullah comes to 1 rupee and so on and so on. And the question. So the whole question is that actually what does this poverty line mean? And the basic question then again that has it changed over time also. So this is what actually the topic that was covered and so on. So again actually the economists give our explanations and so on. I need not to start with 1980, 50 and so on. Let us start with the current debate, early 70s, 73, 74 and so on. So we had a poverty line and we were talking about something like 50 rupees a month or something. The exact figures like Professor Dubey was giving something like that. But there was some actually norms behind that line. I mean, they looked at the expenditure pattern of the poorer people and so on, and they saw actually that this particular consumption level. Again, they are not going to question of other aspects of poverty, multi-dimensional aspect. We are not touching, but let's talk about the basic things which are being debated on TV. So those questions particularly. So the line was decided that you got some calorie requirement for energy and so on for working people, and they looked at actually that which segment of the population had those calorie requirement and so on. And according to that requirement, they fixed the line at certain level. Now the question comes actually that whenever somebody comes from the government side and they say we have not changed the line. And this is largely line taken by planning commission people, taxing everybody and so on. But what they have done, like this was explained by Professor Dubey also, that how we have gone about this Lahawal committee, consultative committee and so on. But the basic question here is that actually have we changed the line or not? That is the question. So the earlier line which we had in 1973-74, that said okay that people, in that particular expenditure bracket get calorie requirement met of 24 kilocalorie or 21 kilocalorie, whatever the given answer. Now we are not really talking about those levels. So definitely we have changed the line. Nobody today talks about the calorie requirement. Nobody says okay that the line of 30 rupees in urban areas or line of 28 rupees in whatever rural areas gives you calorie intake of that level. Because if we go really by those definitions, by those normative definitions of poverty line, we will probably find 50-60% people who are not really meeting the calorie requirement. So the whole question, the whole repetition again and again, we are not changing the line. That is not correct. We have basically deviated from the line. We are not following any longer any calorie requirement norms of the line which was laid in the 1973 for the 1973-74 year. So what we have done actually, we have taken some money value and so on. We have adjusted with inflation rate and so on. So the first question, this denial. Somebody really. The whole question is this. Like somebody on TV should come and tell us actually the nation. Don't send Raj Babbar, don't send anybody else actually. Montek Singh himself should come on TV 1 hour, take 1 hour time and tell us that if we say, 30 rupees is your poverty line, 31 means you are non-poor. So what does that actually mean? How can a person earning 31 rupees, what kind of life he can lead? Explain that thing to the people. You can't really just go start talking, taking names, Lakat Bala, Falana Bala, this Bala, that Bala. That don't happen actually. Because tell us, what does it mean in today's times? And again, what are we talking about? 10% of our population lives actually in a bigger city. we live in like cities like Bombay and Delhi and so on. So what does 31 rupees, which we call non-poor, would mean in a city like Bombay and Delhi? Somebody should properly explain that this is what we expect a 31 rupee person to kind of life to lead and so on. So these are the questions. So I mean, this whole question that we have not changed the line is not really right, because we have changed the line. We no longer go to those norms of calorie requirements and so on. The other questions actually coming, like sometimes we read in newspapers that okay, this is international line. He was also raising a question here about this purchasing power parity, US dollar and a dollar, $1.25 and so on. So those kind of things. Now obviously, I mean, we know that actually this is not the reference point and so on. But even a planning commission members writes, Meher Shah actually wrote recently in the newspapers that we are following this line. And other economic commentators regularly raise this issue that what are you talking about? We are following an international line. But nobody really tells us that this international line actually was made keeping India in mind. I mean, this is not an international line. This line was made because of a lot of influence of Indians sitting there, and who said, okay, if you really keep that high level, then what will happen to us? Whole our country will be below poverty line. We can't tolerate that politically and so on. So the line of this $1.25 BPP term is a line meant really for India and countries like that. So I mean, they should not really, because it's not international line. American poverty line is $22,000 per year for a family of 4. Europe has its own line. So I mean, this deception actually which is being used, that somehow what we can do, this is an international line and we are following that line. This is not really, because this is line made for us, made by mainly by the influence of Indians who were sitting in those kind of committees and so on, and that is the line actually we are talking about. So what has happened over time actually? I mean, now we have obviously changed the line. We are not talking about calorie terms. So other than that, actually what has happened and so on, like for example, look at the conditions we were in 1960s or early 70s and so on. I mean, most of us we know that were poor, but most of the people were of same level and so on. So really, poverty psychologically in an environmental sociological sense really didn't matter that much. Nobody had scooters actually. We at most some people had some radio, cycle and things like that. So it didn't really matter if you're living in that kind of environment. But now look at actually what has happened and so on. I mean, one side we are looking 10, 15, 20% people living like Europeans, California people and so on. And again, and then we are talking about people that okay, 31 rupees is okay for you. I mean, we will call you non-poor, I mean, for whatever purpose and so on. What has happened to our education? This point has actually been raised here, like commercialization of education and so on, commercialization of health and so on. Even in the countryside, we see that government schools are not functioning, government hospitals are not functioning. Even poor people send their kids to English medium schools, where nobody knows English actually. I mean, they even misspell probably a lot of things and the names of the schools. But I mean, what can people do? I mean, and then there's so many requirements all around you. People have to dress also. Somebody come in same kind of clothes they used to come earlier and so on. I mean, so the social pressure, the environmental pressure, the everything around you and so on had changed. Everybody had mobiles, big cars, sport cars, and all kind. And that, I mean, so in that, from that point of view, actually, that we see that in 30-40 years, so much has changed for poor people. I mean, it's I mean, frustrating it will be for a poor person to come out without slippers and something on the street today actually, which probably was not the case. So all these, keeping all these things actually, we need to, if we have changed the line, so let us change it properly. We are not keeping the 73-74 line, so let us revise it. And I mean, the new definitions of something much close to, I'm not saying I'm going to go by international levels and so on, but $2 a day in PPP terms. And some line actually which is now only recently being quoted in the papers that okay, that line which will divide the country into 33% and 67% people and so on, something about that comes to about 2,000 rupees a month for a person. So we come, let us accept actually that's as a line and accept that 67% of our people are below poverty line. I mean, define it as some proper sense and so on. Only actually something about that we may call okay, non-poor. So this is one question about the talk about poverty line. Now, actually, very briefly, I want to touch upon this question of food security also at a macro level. I mean, a lot of time actually we say, I mean, BJP people also saying very recently that we are producing so much and so on, and I mean, that's actually, I mean, is correct only in a very, very particular context, because suppose your 30-40% people are not really getting enough to eat, so obviously what we produce may be enough, called enough and so on. We come to the level of 250 million tons or 259 million tons, that kind of thing. And again, actually, no point taking 1 year figure because you have to sort of average out for 4-5 years or something to get it proper trend and so on. And so that we may be called self-sufficient in the sense because a lot of our people are not able to eat properly, and in that case, actually, we are even to able export also. Like we regularly export, we export rice, but we recently years actually we have been exporting wheat also in larger quantities. And 1 year we exported 11 million tons, and the 1 year before actually 6-7 million tons of wheat also we exported. Why? We export a lot of things, food, meat, and so on. And because people are not able to afford those things. But is it really, can it be called, self-sufficiency in the sense actually, suppose you want to compare these levels with other countries and so on. America, they use 4 times more cereals actually than we eat. So, if you allow really, space for that kind of increase in level of consumption, especially, by converting it to proteins, meat, and so on. And so that. So this is another question. And again, like questions like a lot of people say that okay, cereal consumption is coming down and so on. Because we don't do hard work, our calorie requirement will be low. But then we got other things, meat, vegetables, and so on. But actually, then average figure, should not be quoted. As far as average figure for cereals is quoted, it may be reflective of the reality to good extent. But when it comes to fruits, high level things and high end actually products and so on, then we need to know that who actually is consuming it. So suppose we say okay, milk so much average, but that won't happen because fruits, for example, that won't average won't happen. We need average eggs and so on. So there we need to really look at distribution. Are poorer people getting those things, or kind people like us actually who earn more than 1 lakh rupees a month, and kind people like us actually we consume those things. So this is a question about food security at the macro level. Now actually one more point I want to touch about this question of universal and 67% total, 75% rural, 50% urban, those kind of questions. Now obviously like we already have PDS system and so on, which covers people and so on. Now we want to increase the coverage, and what is the basic argument actually for increasing the coverage is that we were excluding a lot of poor people from earlier PDS definitions of BPL and so on. So we need to actually make it bigger, larger, so that problem is reduced. We already had a problem of inclusion of non-poor and so on, so that will remain. So that we accept. So by increasing the numbers to 2/3, 67%, we at least will be able to get rid of this problem that poor were being excluded from the count. But okay, that's very welcome actually, very good, everybody supporting that thing and so on. Universal, universal is a very good idea and so on, but let us say suppose under constraint it can't work, like how much, and people like us actually don't go to ration shops and so on. So 10% will exclude from themselves. So those kind. So it's not much is really, so 25%, like 33% people were leaving out and so on. So 10-15% will in any case self-exclude from themselves. So not a big thing. So let us, but in this process what we have done, when we have, raised this proportion of people to 67%. Now I have actually done some calculations which are very, rough and so on. Just, on the basis of the numbers which are some available and say, let us say suppose we divide the total population into 3 categories. Upadhyay people, that's one category. BPL people and APL people. And then actually there is a category which is sort of not utilizing the rations. A lot of people like us don't have ration. So APL are those people who are, utilizing this PDS system. So, what this new bill does actually, who it benefits. So very briefly I want to talk about this thing. There are rough numbers, but this Upadhyay category actually remains as such. there is no change in that. Like, I mean, people will keep getting these cereals at the rate of 1 to 3 rupees, whatever, and the entitlement is also same, 35 kg for a family of 5. Again, actually, there's a big change here that earlier we had a family system, 35 kg for a family, and now it's individual basis and so on. So, I mean, that will create a lot of differences and so on. So let us not go into those kind of things. Let us assume that every family is five-member family. So suppose we talk about a family which is 5-member family. So as far as this Upadhyay family is concerned, 35 kg they will get at the same rates and so on. So there is no change for them. Now what about BPL actually? Now in my calculation I show that BPL people suffer here because of this new change which we are bringing in through this new food security bill. How? Because we have reduced the entitlement from 35 kg to 25 kg. Some calculation actually I could have shown that, but I mean the whole idea is that, and I'm taking, let us take actually this number of how much a person eats. So people say 11 point something, let us take 12 kg. Suppose a person eats 12 kg of cereal in a month. So, the requirement for BPL family for 1 month is 60 kg, then 5 members, 60 kg. Earlier actually they were getting 35 kg at subsidized rate of 4 rupees. I've taken a figure of 4 rupees. Until the rates are different, but BPL rate is, let us say, about 4 rupees, roughly, very rough, but approximately 2. So actually, so the BPL family gets 35 kg of ration at the total of 140 rupees. This is how much actually they get, 35 kg from ration shop. Now actually they require 60 kg, so 25 kg still they have to purchase from the market. Let us say suppose we use a figure of 15 rupees rate for cereals with and so on market. So they will be spending 375 rupees to purchase 25 kg from the market. So how much is the total cereal bill? That comes to 550 for a BPL family in the current system. Assuming it's a family of 5 getting 35 kg at rate of 4 and rest 25 kg they buy in the market at the rate of 15 actually. Now what happens actually? What happens in the bill? In bill they are given only 25 and let us say at the rate of 2 rupees. So they will buy 25 kg from the shops, ration shops for the rupees 50. So they will spend actually 50 rupees for to get 25 kg. But how much they have to get from the market? Now 35 kg and rate of 15 rupees, that is 525. And how much is their total? 575. So earlier, the whole point is that the earlier a BPL family was spending 515 rupees to buy cereals, 60 kg cereals for a month. Now to get 60 kg cereals actually they will be spending 575. So this is what actually this bill touches. What about APL families? What happens to the families actually who are still in ration but don't get subsidized as subsidized? They also get subsidized and so on. So some calculations actually show that for them earlier they were spending 585 and now they will be spending 575. So 10 rupees gain for them. So BPL loses very marginal gain for the APL people. But I mean, so what does actually this bill do? Basically, it sort of hurting the BPL people, but may be beneficial to the APL families who were earlier not utilizing the system. If they were utilizing, if they were earlier utilizing the system and now they utilize, there is no difference, only difference of 10 rupees. But a lot of people actually, because now this is a right, it was not a right earlier, so maybe supplies will be assured and so on, we will know okay that we can get it like that. So suppose those APL families who were earlier not utilizing the system start utilizing now, they definitely benefit. Earlier they were spending 900 rupees, now they will spend 575. Those people actually APL who are not using earlier. If they were using earlier, no change. So this is what actually this whole thing does, and nobody is raising these kind of questions. I mean, we all welcome obviously. I mean, this bill does not take care of the long-term problems of people and so on, but at least short-term solutions as far as, let us say, suppose, I mean, to meet the immediate requirements of food insecurity and so on. So those kind of things. But what happened to BPL family? I mean, they really, I mean, they are at loss in this new bill. And this kind of issue I have not seen actually in any.
Thank you so much.
ये मोदी का यही आर्गुमेंट है। मोदी का यही
मोदी ने बोला अभी रिसेंटली बोला अभी रिसेंटली।
Yeah, I wanted to make a couple of points clear on what President has been talking. This is related to two issues. One is 30 rupees per person per day, that's wage for South to be. There is this one issue. One is about it's being average. It was average. It was average. It's average. I mean, it's not only if it is a smaller or lower amount in the bigger cities, it could be more than the average in the lower cities. In fact, we have a paper where we have worked out the city size influence on the poverty levels and reduction. So that's the case.
How you have to explain?
Well, I will explain.
I mean, don't you have to live? Actually, I mean, Saxena also uses the term.
Let me complete it.
I mean, we're not talking about street dogs.
Let me complete it.
Street dog, I will talk about a person has to live also.
Let me complete it. Now.